Welcome to This Explainer. You know that old saying we hear all the time? Life doesn't come with an instruction manual. We're just sort of expected to figure out our habits, our emotions, and our messy relationships completely on the fly. But what if I told you that while life itself might not have a manual, our minds actually do?
Seriously? Is there a manual for how your brain operates? Well, modern psychology says absolutely yes. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden psychological rules that are quietly guiding your everyday decisions, and more importantly, we'll translate them into really simple habit changes and self-reflection exercises that you can use right away.
We're going to break this manual down into 4 quick parts: your brain's operating system, rethinking relationships and memory, regulating your emotional world, and finally, building a resilient mind. Let's just dive right in.
Part 1. Your brain's operating system. Here, we're taking a look at the foundational biology and that unconscious software running in the background of our daily lives.
Okay, get this. A massive 95% of our daily decisions are completely unconscious. We are literally running on autopilot most of the time. Because of this, making a lasting change doesn't actually come from having ironclad willpower. It comes from designing your environment. Want to eat better? Just put the junk food out of reach. You have to make the right choice, the absolute easiest choice for your autopilot to make. Now, this perfectly leads us to the biggest myth of the modern workplace: multitasking. True multitasking is a complete illusion. What our brains are actually doing is task switching, frantically jumping a single spotlight of attention back and forth. And every single time you jump, there's a cognitive switching cost that can tank your productivity by up to 40%. The ultimate daily upgrade here: become a fiercely disciplined single-tasker. Give one thing your full attention, finish it, and then move on.
And while we're talking about biology, we have to talk about age. If you're under 25, your brain's prefrontal cortex is, well, it's literally an active construction zone. Add in a biologically delayed melatonin cycle, and yeah, waking up early is incredibly difficult. Understanding this biological mismatch is huge because it fosters empathy instead of judgment. It means we can rely on external tools like planners or alarms while our internal hardware actually finishes developing.
So in a world where everything is an instant download, our natural patience is shrinking. But we can actively build that mental muscle back up with a simple habit change called micro-weights. When you feel that sudden urge for instant gratification, like instinctively grabbing your phone, just wait exactly 1 minute before acting. That's it. It's a tiny dose of short-term discomfort, but it gives you a massive long-term reward in mental discipline.
Moving on to Part 2, rethinking relationships and memory. Let's see how we process our own past and how that affects our connections with others.
Think about this. Your memory is absolutely not a video camera objectively recording reality. It's way more like a creative writer. This is called memory distortion, and it means that every single time you recall an event, your brain actively reconstructs it. It tweaks it based on your current mood and whatever new information you have, which perfectly explains that crazy reality where two well-meaning people can remember the exact same argument completely differently.
Now, knowing our memories are inherently flawed is a real game changer for handling conflict. The next time you find yourself in an argument, try to step away from being this defensive courtroom prosecutor who is obsessed with the exact, literal facts. Instead, practice being a collaborative storyteller. Focus on how each person felt in the moment so you can piece together a shared truth.
And this self-reflection strategy is also your key to escaping the anxiety trap of social media. Remember, our brains were evolved to compare ourselves within a tiny village, not against the highly curated 7 billion person highlight reel. You have to actively shift your focus away from that constant upward comparison. Make it a rule. Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday, and make sure you're celebrating your own personal wins.
All right, Part 3, regulating your emotional world. Let's dive into the beautiful and honestly sometimes bizarre ways our minds balance our internal feelings. Have you ever looked at a tiny baby or a puppy that was just so overwhelmingly adorable you kind of wanted to squeeze it a little too hard? Don't worry, you aren't crazy. That is a very real, documented psychological phenomenon called cute aggression. It's basically your brain regulating a massive surge of positive emotion by tossing in a dash of aggression just to maintain emotional balance. It's literally your mind's brilliant way of protecting you from being totally paralyzed by pure joy.
When we shift to our deeper emotions, society is always telling us to build high self-esteem. But honestly, self-esteem is incredibly fragile. It relies almost entirely on comparing yourself to others, and it totally crumbles the second you fail. The real psychological superpower is high self-compassion. Treating yourself like a good friend activates your brain's care system, which actually makes you feel safe enough to learn from your mistakes. So, to build up that self-compassion, try this quick reflection exercise right after your next setback. First, just notice when you're being overly critical, and take a physical breath to pause that internal threat response. Consciously replace thoughts like, "I'm such an idiot," with, "Okay, that was a really tough situation, and I did my best." Then simply ask yourself, what can I actually learn from this?
Bringing us to our fourth and final part, building a resilient mind. Let's explore the active process of bouncing back from adversity. We usually think happiness is just the finish line we cross after we've succeeded at something. But psychological models show us that positive emotions are actually the engine of success itself. Experiencing joy or gratitude actively broadens your mind to new ideas and new people. And that broader mindset, it allows you to build new skills and resources, which then generate even more positivity. It is a brilliant, self-perpetuating upward spiral.
And one incredibly practical habit change to jumpstart that upward spiral is simple 15-minute journaling. By dedicating just 15 to 20 minutes a day to writing about your difficult experiences, you force those chaotic feelings into a coherent, manageable narrative. The research on this is stunning. It frees up so much psychological energy that it actually leads to measurably better immune function and fewer stress-related doctor visits.
Because at the end of the day, the science is crystal clear on this. Resilience isn't just some genetic trait you're either lucky enough to be born with or you aren't. It is an active set of skills that your brain learns. Every single time you overcome a challenge, your brain literally strengthens the neural pathways between your thinking center and your emotional center, which proves that your struggles aren't just terrible things to endure. They are the exact raw materials your brain uses to grow stronger.
So, the absolute core takeaway of this entire explainer boils down to this thought right here. By knowing how your brain works, you can stop fighting against it and start working with it. Understanding these hidden psychological truths gives you the power to finally work alongside your biology so you can build the habits, forge the relationships, and develop the resilience you've always wanted. I want to leave you with one final question to think about today. Which page of this mental manual are you going to apply to your life right now? I highly encourage you to pick just one simple new habit. Maybe it's trying to micro-weight, starting that 15-minute journal, or committing to single tasking for the afternoon, and put it into practice immediately. If you want to keep upgrading your mental operating system, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the human mind. Catch you next time.